All right, good morning and welcome to our channel. So good to have everybody. Today we'll be talking about something that is a very popular topic and I get asked about a lot. Special use vouchers and preferences. These are the things that are most considered when dealing with housing and Section 8 programs at the federal level. Whether you have project-based housing, whether you have a subsidy, tenant-based housing, PBRAs, HUDMA, or any other of the 128 different programs out there. So we'll talk about that a little bit. It was something that my office deployed over 26 years, and dealing with the cases is both the utilization of rebuilding a person's case and then also using those preferences. It makes a big difference because many of you do not qualify yourself very well. In other words, you have a case, but based on what you're putting on these applications and how you're indicating that to the PHA or Public Housing Authority could instrumentally destroy your case. And a lot of you do that without even knowing. Sometimes your honesty is a little bit too broad. Remember what I told you guys for many years. You can't play a rigged game with the hope of winning it by being a Christian. Okay, it's already tough. So anyways, I want to say good morning to all you guys. It's really cold this morning again. I'm so glad that I'm not a northerner after about a week of frost and cold temperatures. I'm already sick to death of this every day. And I know the electric company is just hoping to bankrupt me. But yeah. All right. So moving on from there, my name is Jay. I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com. I have a company that I had for roughly 26 years. During that time, before I retired in January, we helped clients navigate the system. And I think I've made around 2,000 to 3,000 videos in that time. I think there's over 1,000 in the channel, and I think 15 years. And one thing I want to say before we move on to the actual topic is I had soccer mom pop in the channel late last night. She told me that I'd be better off golfing than giving advice. So to that soccer mom that said that doesn't know who I am, I hope you drive your car off a bridge, okay, and that you end up in a wheelchair and that you're breathing through a straw to push it around, okay? That's what I wish you. I cannot stand stupid people. All right, so moving on from there, and of course I mean that disingenuously. I don't really want anybody to be hurt, but that's how it goes. Anyways, our office still offers short appointments for those of you that are struggling to navigate the system. We offer 15 minutes, 20-minute, 30-minute appointments. You can use this QR code. Yep, I printed it out, all Cajun style there. So you focus your camera on that, and once you get it focused on there, you'll find a link at the bottom, and then you click on it, and then you see we have booking software. So I still do appointments. It's what it keeps me from actually going out to the golf course. Nobody truly wants to retire. We all have to work till we die. So there you go. Let me do a few shout outs real quick to the guys in the channel. I know this is not going to be a popular topic because most people don't know how to look for this or even aware what these things are. And so that's why we'll be talking about it. Minka, good morning. Tony Williams, good morning. Susan Wells, good morning. Shaw Shines, good morning. Maria Betty, good morning. Butterfly, message retracted. Muskogee Land watching. Okay, so preferences: homeless, disability, elderly, veterans, living and working locally, standardized housing, and displacement. FEMA, Red Cross, advanced age above 80. Matters. So these are preferences for you guys. The more of those that you have, the more considerable your case will be. Now, in terms of special use vouchers, same thing, except there are a few mild changes out there. I should also mention the runner-up is extreme low income. As if you don't know, incomes are based on area medium income. And so if your area medium income is 100,000 and you're in a 50% ratio, say 50,000 a year, then you're considered modest or medium income. What you're trying to achieve is extreme low income, which is below that number, which would be roughly 30% of the area medium income would give you a pretty good spot. And, so rebuilding your cases around that. Now, let's talk about serious preferences. Let's talk about the top three. These three mean more than all the junk that I just told you. So all you already know that, so there's no mystery there. Let's talk about what the ones that really can send you reeling up to the top of the list. If you are a domestic violence victim, let's talk about what that is, because a lot of you don't think you are one. If you have a person that you think that you love or you care about, you're intimate with, you think you're dating or have dated, and you're living around them, or they're living in your home, or they're coming to your home, and that person punches or slaps you and creates a physical issue, that's one. If that person treats you badly, talks to you badly, or you feel threatened by them mentally, that's number two. Number three, a person that may defraud you about assets, income, and other things while they're in a relationship with you is number three. Then number four is when they keep showing up when you've asked them not to do so. That includes in the parking lot and other places. Out of those four things, one of them is kind of a loophole because it doesn't require as much evidence as the others. And that would be that emotionally, if you thought a person was treating you badly, it doesn't really require much of a record, So a person cursing you or you feel that you feel threatened by, it's asking for your perception, therefore doesn't require a lot of evidence. Domestic violence is the number one thing, which can send you to the top of the list. Second to that would be a person that is homeless. Well, let's talk about the characteristics of homelessness. You don't need to be an actual homeless person, what we all think of it. You need to be the government's idea of what homeless is. And you'll find it rather imaginative when I tell you what the U.S. government. So when they hired and contracted a child that's barely 21 and sitting in Harvard, they asked him to write what a homeless person is. Now, that kid grew up in a $2 million home, has no clear fucking idea what it is, but he wrote your policies. So you should thank him for this bizarre set of rules. So number one, they're going to look at a 3-year window. Now, you could have been under that bridge 25 years. They don't care. They're only going to view what's happened the last 3 years. So your life is rather irrelevant to them. So a 3-year window. Then they're going to look at the number of times you landed on the street. So let's take a 3-year window. All right. Now, let's say your first year, you spent 6 months on the street. And then you spent 3 days in a hotel. Then you spent another 3 months on the street. So what they're going to be looking for is 4 separate incidents where you were housed and unhoused. But here's the little trick that they play inside of that. They're going to put special dynamic rules, kind of like dynamic pricing in Amazon. If you do get housed, so the 6 months you're on the street, and then you have an incident where you're housed, you may not be housed longer than 7 business days. Okay? So homeless 6 months, you're at the hotel, but on the 6th night, you're going to need to check out. Okay? Go back, live on the street, even per day, and then you can bring back, check into the hotel, and do it again, but never exceed 7 days. If you can achieve this 4 times, then you have now become congratulatory in the government regime, and you may now be considered not only homeless, but chronically homeless, and give yourself a tap in the back. You now qualify for the highest standard of homelessness. No, you being under the bridge, missing legs and eyeballs, being a veteran, fought in wars, none of that matters. Just what the college kids wrote in the book. Some bizarre set of rules where we only going to look at 3-year window of your life. You need 4 separate incidents, and each incidence of housing may not last more than a week. If you can achieve those 4 results, which is fairly simple, then you'll be okay. So I'm going to bounce back to domestic violence. Remember, we talked about all 4 just a few minutes ago, and we talked about the loophole of perception, and you feel that someone is treating you badly. Now, nobody's a material gauge of whether you're dating a person. So you call your best friend, hey, Bob, can you come over? Let's date for 3 minutes. All I need you to do is just talk fucking badly to me. Why? Because the kid at Harvard decided to write the rules. Unfortunately, he didn't indicate how long that relationship had to last. So therefore, within a minute, you break. You're in love. You're going to get married. Minute number 2, you're no longer in love. You're going to get a divorce. You don't even have to be married. and then you just need somebody talking badly to you, and you qualify very well for domestic violence. Homelessness, the same circumstance. Let me give you a more extreme example of how the kids wrote the policies, and then let's talk about what homelessness really means. Since it has to be in a place, you have to be living somewhere where there's no bathroom facility and running water, like your car. How many times have you taken a nap in the car? So if I told Bob, hey, Bob, you want to be homeless? Here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to pretend, Bob, that we'll say Sally. We'll pretend, Sally, that I'm treating you badly. And so you've got domestic violence. Now, because of this, me talking bad to you, you're going to have a lease to this apartment, but I'm going to tell you, because you're in fear of me treating and talking you bad, you can go live in the car. So Sally walks out to the car. She rests her eyes for a minute or two, because they never indicated how long you had to live outside. That's the game, right? So you're in the car, you close your eyes. Oh, congratulations, you just became homeless. When you close your eyelids, you were technically sleeping on the streets, but they forgot to say how long. Okay. So you see, there's always materially a way with the system. Though you have to meet the other rules. So if Sally had an apartment under domestic violence, she has a fear of living in the apartment because of the abuser or the person verbally abusing her. She went up to the car, closed her eyes, and then she came back, moved in the apartment. Then she moved back out to the car, closed her eyes again. If she did 4 separate incidents, closed her eyes in the car, she technically met all the merits of federal rules. You see how poorly designed the system is? Just about any moron could get around the rules. Now, I'm not suggesting any of you act unethically and go do that. But if you're struggling with the housing, I just told you just exactly how that might work out, okay? Now, look, they're going to say, oh, well, we need a record of you being homeless. Well, isn't that hard? I mean, anybody, including myself, could go down to any homeless shelter in town as long as I show up at 6, 7 in the morning and grab a bed ticket, okay? And then I can show up later that day around noon, and then I can walk directly in the door, right to reception, and go, hey, look, I'm trying to get an identification, but unfortunately, the Department of Motor Vehicles says that I've got to have a homeless letter, and that homeless shelter will most graciously cut you a homeless letter. Once you have that, you now have evidence that you're in HIMS database, and B, you have a homeless letter, thus proving that at some categorical point you are homeless and you met that rule. So you're seeing now how the system can be navigated like lightning. Okay, that's in terms of COC. And it does apply also to housing and vouchers. Now, it's a little bit more difficult in areas where people have gotten clever, those that have figured it out, but I'm just suggesting that that's how that might work out. So let's talk about special use, now that I've shown you a few magic tricks. Special use vouchers are circumstances where natural disasters and so on happen, and they happen a lot. In fact, they declared a national emergency across half the states. Do you know during that time, if FEMA and Red Cross visit, 50 cents of gas in your car, you travel to the next state that just got hit by a hurricane, you could sign up at FEMA. If you signed up at FEMA, you automatically bought yourself in a way to navigate straight to a housing authority voucher based on natural disaster and special preference. That's why you'll see homeless always jump in the game right as a natural disaster hits. As an example, we had a hurricane hit about 8 years ago in the city of Houston. Okay. Now, the homeless weren't really affected. Stuff like that's bubblegum to them. Okay. They're not affected. It was like getting their hair blow dried. So, but you'll notice they all ran to NRG Stadium and stayed there because they knew under federal rules, FEMA and Red Cross were required before asking them to leave to come up with a housing solution, and they could use special use vouchers to achieve their goal. So many homeless do wait, and they've learned. They teach themselves out there how that game works. All I'm doing is bringing this to public table. When you've got a declaration of a national or a local emergency, and you got FEMA and Red Cross out there, that's a perfect time to push your casework at a rapid pace. Why? Because FEMA and Red Cross have an obligated right under federal law to help you get a special use voucher. And that can skip all the people that have been sitting on that waiting list 35 years. That natural disaster is an amazing thing. There's another trick in the book as well, and it doesn't work like it used to, but for those of you that have mental health problems and often have a psychiatric visit, the kind that keeps you for about a week, well, it turns out if it's not at a local hospital, and they decide to send you to a state hospital, you know, that place where you stay about a month for inpatient treatment. Well, if it ends up being a state hospital you land to, they have a state responsibility to ensure housing before you leave. Now, I don't want you to confuse that with you going to your local ER and staying in the local hospital's psychiatric ward. It's got to be a state hospital. If you go to a state hospital, they have an obligation to do so, and before they can release you on the sidewalk, but you got to know to ask for it. Okay, they're not going to do it automatically. So as you wrap up your housing plan to leave after 1 month or a week or so in a state hospital, then the worker, if requested, has to go out and assist you with achieving continuum of care program, which would be rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing. Small price to pay if you're already homeless. It only matters that you're there and know to ask that. But again, it's not going to work in a psych ward in a hospital. It's got to be a state-sponsored psychiatric hospital. I can't express that enough. Otherwise, if you land up in the hospital and it's just a normal psych ward where you stay about 3 days to a week, they're not going to help you with shit. They'll put you out there in your paper clothes on the sidewalk and forget you. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Other special use circumstances are for domestic violence, VAWA. It seems the domestic violence rolls quite evenly across all programs, and it helps in varying degrees depending on how you utilize that and the evidence that you have. And just to be clear, you don't necessarily need to have a court case, a district attorney, but that gets into a particular with the district attorney's office. For those of you that have the worst kind of domestic violence cases, if you are under current prosecution against an offender, you may request that the district attorney's office assist you with a letter. It is one of the most powerful letters that you can get in terms of housing because the district attorney's office is funded by the county and state, and it makes referrals to what? The county housing authority. That means you may receive a special dispensation for a special use voucher. So asking the district attorney, sometimes they may not be aware. You may have to enlighten them because remember, DA's office changes hands and employees all the time. Some will not know. So you have to kind of make them privy of it. As soon as they look into it, they catch that letter, it will expedite your process greatly. Okay. Second of that, on certain occasions between mental health, which would be state hospitals and DA, those are very, like I said, again, they're powerful because they're state and county funded, and it's making referral to what? The county housing authority. All right. So those are some inside things that you may not be aware of. I'm not telling you guys to go chase hurricanes and blizzards and national emergencies. I'm not suggesting you pack your Gucci and go spend a week playing finger paints at the local nut farm. But if you're already out there and you're trying to expedite process, that certainly will put jet fuel on your case. Okay. There are a lot of ways and a lot of things I learned over the years. Sometimes you learn it because it's on the books, but other times you learn it because of your clients. And by experiencing that through them, you learn some niches. And those are some of the big niches out there. So that's two of the three big ones, domestic violence, homelessness. Now, the third's going to be disability. Those that are disabled and qualified. And disability, now there's two versions of this. There's disabled and you get a check, right? That's through the Social Security Administration. The second is you have to keep in mind HUD is a separate federal agency than the Social Security Administration that issues a check. Therefore, HUD's rules do not require that you have a disability check in order to be qualified as disabled. In fact, a person with diabetes or even things as simple as asthma could be qualified as disabled. It is much easier than you might imagine to become disabled. Any person that went to the local doctor after looking up the symptoms of bipolar can go to a local physician. If you described exactly what bipolar is, and that doctor decided that he was going to make a decision that somehow you qualified as bipolar and cut you some Prozac, therefore you will win status of disability, but under HUD. Do not think because you're bipolar, you're going to run to the Social Security Administration, a second indifferent federal agency, and go get a check. That's not enough evidence. That's good enough for HUD. It's not good enough usually for the Social Security Administration. So those are some pretty inside things that you may consider when you can't do things properly. Sometimes you have to look at the standing on the fence with this stuff. All right, so I'm going to move back to the comments here, and there are a lot of them. Some of you are going to like me. Some of you are going to think I'm probably the incarnation of the devil for telling you things like this. But look, when you've done this 26 years, my only interest is whether or not a person can freeze to death or burn up in their car being homeless. It's not whether or not they're going to have to ask for forgiveness on Sunday because they decided to take some advice that I've given them based on material cases. Okay, you do what you got to do, because if you're going to wait on the government to do it, I'd rather see you in a coffin. Okay, and if you think that they're going to do prayer circles at the housing authority for you can forget that. Those people don't give a shit whether you live or die. So take it in your own interest to do what you need to do to ensure that you continue to live and breathe. Okay, don't wait for the government. All right, let's move on up here. And so Butterfly says, hi, Jay. I've been praying for an orange cat, and a cat was meowing outside when I went down to get packages. Well, I'm glad you got your orange cat. They're some of the best cats ever, especially the males. The orange versions are usually very mild cats. I know I have one. Dana D, good morning. Key Shared Winslow, good morning. Muskogee Land, I waited for this apartment for 2 years in Santa Fe and jumped through all hell to get it. That sounds about right. Just short of selling your soul. You got it. All right, Preppy Princess, good morning. Jay and Kiki's. Yep, I don't have any today, unfortunately, guys. Cats are protesting. It's been very cold. They're sluggish, so none are probably going to pop up on the chair today. I know a lot of you guys visit because my crazy cats, and I've got a bunch of them, and they tend to sit on the chairs and all in the video. Keys Winslow, I've been dealing with domestic violence. Well, then you've got one of the better cases out there than if it starts with DB. Butterfly, I'm going to take a sip of my little energy drink. By the way, guys, if y'all hadn't noticed, I lost a little bit more weight. Take the little shot in the arm, plus salads and smoothies and all that. So, yeah, we're over 10 pounds now. And so you're watching me kind of vanish. That fat guy y'all been watching for 5 years. I picked up a bicycle as well. So for those of you who ever wonder about all those people that pay money in order to get a shot in the arm and stuff like that, and stuff does work, and it works pretty fast. And it doesn't have that many symptoms, at least for me. Doesn't mean you're not going to have a problem, okay? So, yep, we lost some more weight. So we're going to work on that again this week and keep on going, okay? Because I'd like to live a little bit longer than 68. That's about when everybody in my family dies, from heart-related issues and being fat. So I'm not going out that way. Kitty Pie, Jay, good morning. Thank you. In has 973. I'm a veteran in the beginning of phases of HUD VASH. I've received a division of housing 2026 of a small area payment standards. The property is 1930 and 1 bedroom standard is 1985 for the zip code. Okay. I'm not quite sure what your question is, but thank you for letting us know. And you go on. Utilities are not included. How can I go and ask for an advocate for myself to receive 120%? That's not something I can cover in this video. I'm sorry. I know you're asking a good question, but it would take far too long, and it would be, I would say, just reach out to my office, okay? That would be the best way. I can produce the federal documentation needs so you'll understand. It's just not a subject that I can spend an hour on here, okay? It's also a complex subject. Muskogee Land, you have to play the game. Don't act out. Don't cause problems. Do the illness paperwork. Well, that is true. That is true in some respects, but everybody's experience is different with it, and so are the results. I know that after dealing with 22,000 clients over the years. Tony Williams, I made it out. Good. I'm glad you're a survivor. That's pretty bad when you have to go and you're sitting in church, you go and you get to speak on the microphone, and you're talking about being a survivor, and then you end the conversation with, and I got a voucher, and people looking at you thinking, my God, this guy's got PTSD after trying to get a voucher. I'm a survivor. Yeah, little survivor meetings. They're like AA meetings. People that are talking about their journey to get a voucher and how their whole life was shredded. And I do sympathize because it's that bad sometimes. Michi, good morning. Michi, I mean Jay. Okay, well, good morning to you, Michi. Crystal Molina, good info, Jay. Thank you. Especially disability status has been fighting SSA for years. My advocate says I have more evidence than she's seen. And they're still denying me. Well, disability claims or like insurance claims, the U.S. government in most cases are going to deny you twice before you go a third time. And so it's kind of like they'd like to see you pander around for approximately 3 years, 2 denials, and on the third is usually the trick. I've had a few clients get the first time, but they were so profoundly fucked up they had to win the first time, okay? And I mean profoundly. Otherwise, mostly you get denied twice, and on the third try you get it, but it's good. Just think of it as a 3-year savings plan. When you hit it on the third try, you get about a $20,000 or $30,000 check. Hopefully, you don't ruin your life over that, but after that, you get what you need. And so just thinking of a 3-year savings plan where you start losing part of your hair falls out while trying to fight a disability case. That's the case for disability in this country. You'll meet near insanity trying to win it. But after about 3 years, it always plays out the same way. I've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of cases at this point. Sean Shines, congratulations. There's no need to thank me. I made myself fat on my own undoing and just being no good. So I'm just glad that I'll be able to extend life a little further. But, a car could still drive by and kill me. There's 1,000 ways to die these days. But at least I can control one thing. I won't die from being fat. Joseph 76, good morning. Good morning to you. So preferences and special use vouchers are an important element in virtually all cases. A lot of you guys frame up your case the wrong way. You're putting in information and applications to the housing authority that destroy your case from the beginning and put you in a lower percentage. And a lot of you guys don't realize there are 3 tiers of applications. Okay, doesn't mean there's 3 different applications you can fill out. Let me tell you the purview of a housing authority and how they process applications in most cases. Let's just do fictional situation. Let's say it's New York, and they say, all right, we're going to open the housing authority waiting list for NYCHA. And so you get 50,000 people apply. The first thing the housing authority does is they eliminate almost half the list simply based on income. So in other words, you're open. What they mean to say at the housing authority is we're opening the list. You're welcome to waste your time. We're going to eliminate half of you because you simply don't even qualify. So anybody is welcome to fill out a free application to nowhere. Only half will probably be considered. From there, then they categorize you in 3 bubbles. Those that are high priority, which means you got preferences and special use. Then below that, those are the people you pop a ticket at the DMV. You're in a waiting pattern. Okay. And then there's the lower third. That's what I call the magic bubble. That's where if somehow in the near future, in the next 15 to 20 years, that they manage to clear a special preference, okay, bubble 1 and bubble 2, maybe 1 to 3 people at the very top of that bubble will actually get selected, kind of like charity, right? And so, and another thing, guys, a lot of you guys are having fits and seizures about waiting list numbers. Let me tell you an awful secret that most of you don't realize. Housing authorities also bubble numbers. In other words, they will tell you that you're on the waiting list and you're number 2 or 3. They tell that to 500 people, okay? It gets you to shut up and stop calling. And another thing is they also give another set of bubble numbers, basically, which is you're around 100 to 200, and that's for your medium or second bubble, and they tell about 5,000 people that. And then you got another one where they don't even give the number. Let's give you the reality. Housing authorities stopped giving out waiting list numbers a long time ago. They figured out that if you don't tell people their waiting position, then you won't hassle them to death by email and phone. So in most cases, you're not going to get a number. If you do, you'll be in a group number, and it has no basis in reality as to where you actually are in that list. And keep in mind, at any minute during the day and the week and that month and that year, 100,000 more people can apply there, and your number is constantly moving up and down. The more that apply, the more you go down. And if you have high preferences, the more that apply, the higher you get pushed. You see how the game is? The thing is, you got to be above the center. That's why I was fought with cases to ensure you had high preferences and special use to make sure that not only were you near the top, but if more people applied, it would continue to push you higher. But a lot of you guys go out there and you pull it, you go down to the dollar store, you pay 50 cents for a pen, you go and use your best wisdom on the application, you start out with your good Sunday Christian truth, and you write all that truth in there, and you fucking destroy yourself in your case. And then you'll call my office and say, hey, Jay, I don't understand. I've been on the waiting list since 1962. They keep telling me that I'll be next. Let me tell you something. Housing Authority doesn't contact you within 3 years, you ain't got a chance in hell. Okay? You don't have a chance in hell. In a big city, probably 5 years. 3 to 5 years is pretty much the line limit. If you're not contacted in that period, you're below the 50% mark, you might as well just hang it up. The only thing that's going to happen there is, unless Jesus touches you in the housing authority at the same time, you're not ever going to get that voucher. You'll continue to have new applicants push in, and your number will continue to go to straight depths of hell. Don't believe me? Watch how many people sit on them waiting list 15 years. What they don't realize is they have the worst case in America. They said the worst thing they could put on there. They have zero preferences, anything. So they're simply unimportant. And the only way that they're ever going to get selected anytime in the near future is if they completely empty out the list. They literally would have to wait to be dead last. It's cold truth, but that's what you need to understand. How would I know that? Well, my office hired former directors and housing authority employees from many different housing authorities around America. I even contracted the former New York housing authority director. I know exactly how this works. Also, I know how they train. And anybody who wants to understand it better, you can go over to www.nan, N-A-N, and McKay. That underwrites policies, procedures for nearly every housing authority in America. It'll tell you everything. So will the administrative plan. You can do it under FOIA. Freedom of Information Act to the PHA's in-house counsel will give you their administrative plan, policy, and procedure, and you can understand the playbook and read the same playbook they play by, but won't let you see. So, like I was talking about that soccer mom in the first few minutes in this video that said that maybe I should go golf because I was a terrible video maker. It isn't about whether or not I look good, whether I put on hair and lipstick and look like some monotone white man, middle-aged, and have some, super fresh background and one of these YouTube bobbleheads. What matters is what I know. Okay? And that's what it comes down to. I didn't get to where I got with 22,000 clients because I'm an idiot. I'm probably one of the most well-known consultants in the country. Hands down. Google all over the place. Been published hundreds of times. So do I really care what people think of my videos? Not really. I'm retired these days. You're lucky I don't show up in my sunbathing suit. Okay? And you pair that with my Cajun personality, you're going to hear profanities. Why? Because I do exactly precisely what I want to do. I'm not here to entertain. I'm here to help you guys understand how the system works. And you'll either play it the way they want you to play it, or you'll play it the way that'll get you a voucher. So you have to decide. If this ain't for you, go over to Bob Fidget Spanner channel. You know what? He'll one day he's an expert at being a consultant. The next day he's an expert at baking cupcakes. Or you can deal with a real federal consultant that has an attitude. They may not have that most perfect video. They could care less. I'm not worried about social norms. I don't care about that kind of shit. Okay? I'm from a different part of the world where people are real. You want real? Come here. Okay? So if you don't like my dollar store microphone and other things and tough shit, I don't really care. That's my message to soccer mom. All right. Good morning, guys. Anybody that's watching up my videos knows I know what I'm talking about. And look, how many times have you ever seen me take a breath and read from a teleprompter? Never. I can recite federal code for hours without ever reading anything. Find somebody else who can do that on YouTube. There isn't anybody else. Why? I'm first of all, my channel's older than all of them. Two, all they do is copycat what I do, and none of the rest of them know anything because there's a difference between a real federal consultant and an entertainer, a party clown with balloons. I'm the difference. All right, moving on from down there, Just Praying America it's still easier to get a voucher through working with your local independent living disability organization. Well, you could do that, but I don't really think they know anything. I mean, they'll provide you a free ink pen. They'll help you move the ink pen around the paper, but they don't know shit about how to get anything quicker. They, oh, here's an orange cat. Y'all want to see Orange Kiki? Here's Papa. He decided to visit us today. Say hello, Pop. He gets kind of needy, especially when he wants his treats. So, and again, soccer mom, if you're here, nobody gives a shit about what you think about me and my channel. Even my cats will tell you that. All right, let me put him down because he'll get on that keyboard and the video will end. Here, we'll put him baby style, so he'll be good. Here we go, Papa. All right. Sorry about that. Well, really, I'm not sorry, but that's Pop's party. When he wants what he wants, he gets what he gets. You know, right? Here comes another one. You're fixing to get another cat, so it's about that time. Diamond's gonna come visit us. I see that little tail bobbing coming around the desk here. So I promise cats sometimes, so you get them. All right, Sheila Neal, prime example, Miami is a very big problem with Section 8. Of course it is. Miami won the award of the most people ever applied in a city for vouchers. Now, of the city's population, we looked at the percentages, 28% of the entire city applied for a voucher. How is that even fucking reasonably possible? How could 28% of any city in America need to apply for Section 8? 28%. Do you know the average number is like 6, 7? Even New York or LA. But Miami has won the record of the most needy fucking place on the planet. I'm just being honest. How could a quarter of the population apply? How is that even possible? So I can tell you Florida, I can tell you how it's possible. Florida is arriving very quickly. They laughed at California. Oh, look at the Democrats over there. Well, look, California's going through it right now. The rich folks have bought up every piece of water out there. They're raising the rents at a rapid pace. And look, it's becoming unaffordable. The state of Florida is becoming very unaffordable, especially in the South. You know, in the future, you're going to start making decisions in Florida if you live in the southern part, because it's becoming extremely hard to afford anything out there. You know, and that's the same thing that happened in California. You get too many wealthy people pooled in one area, then they end up tying everything up. So I don't think that's the wisdom of me being a consultant. I think that's just common sense. So, all right, moving on from there. Karen knows. Good morning. Patrice, look at Papa. Yeah. Patrice, great job, Jay, in Pop. He looks like Frankie. Well, thank you. Sean shines that part. Well, guys, I've enjoyed talking with you. A little bit of lecturing, a little bit of preaching, a little bit of unprofessionalism, a little bit of my retirement attitude, but oh well. Take that advice that I'm giving you today. Reconsider what your case is about. If you don't know how to frame your case up, call my office. Okay, I'm not going to do casework for you, but if you need a short appointment, we can talk about how to rebuild your case so it's more preferential, so you don't spend the rest of your life languishing on the list. But I want to repeat, I am not going to go out and chase vouchers for people. I'll help you rebuild your case. We can talk about it over 10, 15, or 30 minutes, but I'm not chasing down vouchers anymore. I did that already too long. So here's QR code. Use your phone, open up your camera, point it at this, and then a link will magically appear below the camera, and you'll arrive at booking software. So sorry, I'm not our Catholic of charities. I don't do free appointments. I'm like everybody else, have bills to pay. I too will work till I die. If I was independently wealthy, you would not be seeing a Amazon fucking van in the background, okay? So I'm not independently wealthy. Neither are you. So act with reason. Other than that, I wish everybody a bitter cold day, and we'll see you again Tuesday. All right?